Welcome to Weathered Questions, where we answer the questions on your radar.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for yet another episode here of Weathered Questions. The Christmas season is right upon us, just a couple of days here now, and we're going to get you going here with a great episode of Weathered Questions. We encourage you to submit your questions as always. We want to know what is on your radar. You can email us your questions to weatheredquestions@gmail.com to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the feedback and, of course, leaving those reviews and just letting your friends and family know we're here to nerd out and talk all about things weather. And it's been a great year here, whirlwind year really for Weathered Questions. We started this program in June. We've gone through summer and fall, and we've had a heck of a December now with all the snow. So we're into our winter season now, Jan.
Yeah, it's nice to, at least here in Iowa, right in the Midwest, actually have some snow on the ground as we have gone into the holiday season. It's made it feel a little more magical, in my opinion. So yeah, it's been fun, but it's also brought up a lot of snow related questions for us. So let's dive into it. First question, actually kind of a follow-up from a couple episodes back in season 2. Episode 10, we talked a little bit about snow, and I kind of alluded to, we'll get into that in a future episode. We finally have time. So why are snow forecasts ranges is the question that we said we would follow up on. And a secondary question to that is, when we get snowfall reports, why can those be so erratic across a seemingly small distance, right? Like across the Cedar Rapids area or the Des Moines metro, or again, plenty of other spots, right? From in Minneapolis area, why can you have a 4, 5, 6 inch difference in snowfall measurements across those areas? So let's get into that. Let's start off with why snow forecasts are ranges there, Kai. So,
I mean, a good way to do snow is to really think about first what it would be in its rainfall equivalent and what we accept in society as an appropriate rainfall forecast. Because if we go around, because that's the root of all water, is it's going to be in its water equivalent. So rainfall just happens to stay as rain, but snowfall still has a water equivalent. And we know this. If we go out to our backyard and we grab some snow, we put it on the table, it's not going to be there in an hour. It's going to melt down to something different called water. So there's a water content to the snow. So if it's April or May and we're talking to local gardeners and they're curious about how much rain is coming, we can say 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain, and that's a generally good forecast and generally very acceptable.
Yes.
We could even, if we have a large event, say a 1 to 2 inch rainfall is coming, and the public generally accepts that. If we were to give a 10 to 20 inch snowfall forecast, the public does not. And they want that better. They want that narrowed down more. And so at its core, what the public is asking meteorologists to do is predict the water equivalent down to the 100th of an inch.
Correct.
To do an exact total of snow. And it doesn't seem like much, but some of the snows that we got in mid-December, especially in central Iowa, were on the order of 20 to 1 snowfall ratio to water ratio. What that means is every 5/100ths of an inch of rain means an inch of snow. And so would you go tell your neighbor, we're going to get 37/100ths of an inch of rain this weekend? No.
And if you are, you should be a meteorologist because...
Right. And especially if you're right, But what you would tell them, even 1/4 to 1/2 an inch, well, shoot, at 20 to 1 snow ratio, you're talking a 5 to 10 inch snow.
Yeah.
And that as the wider the range is, the more people perceive that we don't know what the world we're doing. So we have to go into ranges to allow for some wiggle room. And that's why if you're to do a statistical analysis on pretty much every snowfall range, unless it's a trace to 12, right? Something that's just not practical.
Yep.
You're going to have maybe 70 or 80% of your reports fall within your range. You'll have maybe 15 that are on the low end. So if you do a 2 to 5 inch snowfall forecast, you might have a couple reports higher than 5. You might have a couple reports lower than 2, which we'll get into how those reports come in. But then your sweet spot, ideally, you want it to be your range that you put out there.
Yep.
The wider the range, the bigger the bin is going to be to capture your reports for accuracy. But you have to make sure you understand how your end user is going to handle that information.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get a little chuckle out of some of the snowfall forecasts. And I know it's interesting to see because I see it with a lot of younger meteorologists, and I don't see it as much with the older meteorologists because they've been there and they've busted that.
Yep.
And a busted forecast in our industry is you missed it. You got it wrong.
Yep. It happens.
And it happens. And you'll see a meteorologist go, well, I think it's going to be 1 to 2 here, 2 to 3 here, 3 to 4 here, and maybe 4.5 to 5 down here. Wrong. The whole thing's going to be wrong.
You narrow yourself in to a point that you're bound to fail.
Yeah. And you could almost think of it like this. Let's just say, I don't know, Green Bay Packers are playing the Denver Broncos, right? We know what time the game's going to be. And if that's all you say, that's not very valuable to the viewer.
Yeah.
Okay, they know when it's coming too. Like, okay, it's clearly snowing outside. What more can you give us? Well, I'm going to say that Jordan Love is going to throw 2 touchdowns. Okay, you got me a little bit of value there. All right. Do you think maybe he'll throw 3 or 4? No, somewhere between maybe 2 and 4 touchdowns. All right, great. What else? Well, I think he's also going to run twice. Oh, really? Yeah. How many yards? Oh, probably about 7 or 8 each. Oh, really? How many yards are you going to pass for? Probably about 250. So you see, as we're going more and more specific,
great analogy.
We are getting, our accuracy is nearly 0 now. Whereas we could have just said the Packers will probably win the ball game and be done. So I think sometimes we are our own worst critic because we think that the models are as good as they are. And in some cases, the models are garbage and they don't help you. And sometimes they actually hurt you. Yeah. So as good as the modeling is, I think that's why the snow forecast ranges need to continue. And I know sometimes it's nice to have a good point in the back of your mind of, well, I just want one number. What is one number I can plan on? If you're watching your local meteorologist or you're paying attention to your local National Weather Service, take whatever is the middle of the range and use that as your number, because statistically that's where they want it to be. So if it's a 2 to 4 inch snow and you need a number, just one in your life, take the number 3 and go. That's what I say.
A couple things that I thought of kind of as you're talking through this, that snow water equivalent, right? Kai mentioned a 20-to-1 ratio at one point. And so what that means basically is 20 inches of snow and equals 1 inch of water. So that precipitable water that's in the atmosphere that would equate to both of those things, right? If you had rain, if the temperature was right for that, it'd be 1 inch of rain. If you had snow, it'd be 20 inches of snow. A way that you can see this, Kai mentioned, bring snow in, set it on the table, it's going to melt, right? Well, do that, but contain it, right? Put it in a mason jar, and grab that snow, mark on the side with a Sharpie or a piece of tape or something, mark where that snow is and leave it on the counter for a while and see how much it melts down. And this is actually a great thing if teachers or parents who want their kids to do a little bit of math and figure out, okay, how much snow did I have? Now, how much rain do I have? Or water do I have? And kind of do the math, find that snowfall ratio. And that's a great experiment just to do one time, just to see. But even more fun said in the most nerdy way possible, because I am an absolute weather nerd, even more fun. But wait, there's more. Is do it over a couple, like if you get a couple different snow systems, a couple different snowstorms, do that. Try to get maybe a similar amount of snow and a similar and see how that water breakdown is. Obviously, if you compact that snow, if you press it down in that jar, it's going to change things a little bit. So try to keep things as even as possible in that experiment, but see over 2, 3, 4 different snow systems how a similar amount of snow results in a different amount of water. And that just shows, again, what we're dealing with as meteorologists, and the amount of water that you have in the atmosphere is gonna change things for you. Another thing that I thought of as you're talking, right, that rainfall forecast that, anywhere inch to inch and a half, inch to 2 inches, like that's a totally normal rainful forecast. Part of the
nobody
reason
ever bats an eye at it.
Nobody questions it at all. Part of the reason that nobody bats an eye, and so just to kind of help, as a weather consumer for our listeners, to help you kind of think through that, It's because rain soaks into the ground usually. The only time it causes problems is when you have, flooding and a very, quick amount of rain in a short period of time is the only time anybody really cares after the fact. Whereas snow, it's well, now I have to go deal with it, right? I have to go shovel it. I have to go snowblow. I have to, drive through it, whatever it might be. And so people get so much more worried about that snow amount. But truthfully, what it comes down to is, do I need to shovel? Do I need to not drive? And so a lot of stations, our former one included, are going more towards impact. And that's an important thing, that as a consumer of weather, that you start to kind of pay more attention to that side versus that, well, is it going to be 2 inches? Is it going to be 4 or 5 inches? What's your actual forecast? What's it going to be? Well, again, there's all of these different things that go into it. So maybe it's more important to think, okay, do I need to postpone my plans? Can I still keep my plans, but I might need to allow time to shovel beforehand, versus, oh, we got an inch less than you said.
Right.
There's a lot
right.
of
it's evidence. Is there visual evidence of what the weather did? And with snow and ice, there is, and it doesn't take much to cause some issues. And just a statistic too. So I did a very informal, not research driven, but very informal poll on my LinkedIn page.
Oh, I remember this one.
I've been waiting for this to come around, and so we're actually on its final day right now to accept votes on it. So I gave 3 pieces of information to the LinkedIn crowd. And if you haven't connected with Jan or I on LinkedIn yet and you want to, please do. We're out there. Yeah. We are putting all sorts of fun weather stuff out there. When it comes to these 3 pieces of information regarding incoming snow, which one is most important to you? How much snow is expected, the start and end times of snow, and what warnings are issued? Well, not too surprisingly, people don't really give a rip about warnings. 4%. 4% ranked that as the most important. So of the 2 left, 60% thought that how much snow is expected is the most important piece. But then more than 1/3 thought about the start and end times of snow being very important to them too. So those are kind of the 2 big things. And so not only do you get snowfall ranges in terms of totals, but you'll start to see the Weather Service doing this a lot now too, as opposed to even just 4 or 5 years ago. Their weather story graphics that they put out there. If you follow them on a social media channel, you can go to their website and find them there. They will put lines as to where they believe and put a time range in where they believe the snow may start. Yep. So for example, if you're doing, last second holiday shopping or whatnot, something comes through, or maybe you're just trying to plan out your week and you got, now we get, let's just say this, now we get past Christmas, we got a whole lot of returns. We got some stuff we didn't fit into, let's say, with some clothing. I'm a victim of that right now, actually. So we'll deal with that. But
too much holiday cookies?
Yes. But what we deal with is, all right, and I used to think this erroneously until I actually had a family and realized, why in the world is the grocery store so busy before snowfall? And I always erroneously thought to myself, don't stock up on stuff because we're not going to get snowed in. But then part of me thought after that, I finally matured a little bit. And I went, wait a second. They don't want to drive in snow. I get it.
Yeah.
They're getting their errands done that they would normally do tomorrow.
Yep.
Today. They're not stocking up on anything. They're just moving their days around, and they're actually listening to the forecast. And so I finally got old enough to realize that after I had kids and actually, had responsibilities in my life about how these weeks and years are supposed to go.
Yeah.
And so you'll get ranges on the times too. There's no reason for a meteorologist to go out there and say, this is going to start at 3, you're going to get 8 inches of snow. Okay. You can do that. The chances of being right are almost 0. So why don't you give it a bit of a range? Okay. Just give it a bit of a range. It's okay. And that way people know, all right, I'm good till about maybe mid-afternoon before snow starts coming. And I will tell you that the DOT will also tell you that as soon as the snow starts, boom, accidents are going on. It's going to happen because the blades haven't hit the roads yet. And especially if it goes from no snow to like 1 inch per hour rate snow, you better look out. That first hour or two on the roads is going to be bad. Yep. Happens every time.
It does.
So there you go.
And most accidents happen in those smaller amount snowfalls,
Yeah,
whether
less
it's
than 2 inches.
whether
Yeah.
it's the full snow or just like early on, because again, that's when people don't think it's going to be that bad, right?
Mhm.
People stay off the roads if there's 6 inches
Yeah.
of snow expected, or if there's a blizzard or something. But when it's just starting, or when that snow is quote unquote only going to be a couple inches, people aren't quite as safe.
Yep. All right. So speaking of a couple inches,
Yeah.
let's just say you've got a town like Cedar Rapids or a city like Des Moines, and you wind up getting a 2-inch report and a 4-inch report and a 4.5 and a 2.5 and a 1. Why are these so erratic around town, Jan? What do you think? What's your thought on this?
Well, there's a couple different things that go into this. One, it's just how storms are, right? A city like Cedar Rapids, like Des Moines, like Minneapolis, like Chicago, right? Especially Minneapolis, Chicago. It covers a large area. Somebody might say they're from the Des Moines metro when they go from Grimes all the way down to maybe Indianola, even depending on who you're talking to, and that's a large range, right? That's several miles, in the tens of miles. That it takes a lot. If you had, talking about throwing darts right at a dartboard, you might not quite get the bullseye, but it's pretty close. But it still doesn't count as the bullseye, right? And so you've got a lot of different areas that claim to be in this bullseye spot, but they're not really exactly in the bullseye. And so, a meteorologist, when we only have 3 minutes of time to talk on air, and that's when we're on TV, right? If you're looking at a graphic on Facebook, on the internet, on your weather app, whatever it might be, then you usually have even less time to get the viewer's attention. And so you're very much generalizing things. You're saying, okay, the Des Moines metro is probably going to get around 2 to 4 inches. And that's because maybe somewhere in the northern part of the metro is expected to get 4 inches, but somewhere in the southern part of the metro is expected to get 2 inches, just because storms are producing different amounts of snow in different parts of the storm. That's just the way it is. There's a gradient within the storm because of how these storms are forming and moving across the country. Again, there's different types of storms. You may have heard us talk about clippers or various types of systems that way. So the type of storm itself is going to produce different amounts of snow, and the way that storm is moving is going to produce different amounts of snow. So it's not just us saying, obviously we just talked for 15 minutes about the snow water equivalent and things like that too, but it's also just the storm itself isn't going to give all of the quote unquote Des Moines metro or whatever metro area you want to talk about the exact same amount of snow. It's just the way it is because it's covering a different distance of area.
Yep. Well, and it can also, a lot can depend on when people measure. Yeah. It can depend on the temperature of the storm, because again, if we rewind back to an April or May rain event, the north end of the metro gets 0.4 of an inch. The south end gets 0.15 of an inch. Nobody says anything because it doesn't matter, but it does matter. And some people get really aggressive, especially aimed at the forecasters, and that kind of variability happens. But it's also, if you take a storm, almost any storm, by the way, unless the ground is really frozen everywhere and it's super cold pattern, you will have a different amount of snow on your driveway than you will in your yard, which will then also differ from what is on an elevated surface like a patio table, which may also differ if it's white or black table, which will also differ if the sun came out that day. And then you add in the time aspect. So I think we have largely gotten away from proper snow procedures. Oh, yeah. And I think we as an industry are at the mercy of get the report out to the public as quick as possible, because we don't care if it's super accurate or not. Well, here's what I'm just going to tell you all what we're supposed to be doing in this industry. You're supposed to measure every 6 hours, period. Every 6 hours, noon, 6, midnight, 6. That's the procedure. And you do so on a snowboard that is white, that is a 2 by 2 foot square, I doubt
snowboard meaning
anybody.
Snowboard meaning like plywood piece of board that's painted
Plywood.
white, not
Yes.
the thing you're going down the mountains on.
Yes, a 2x2 plywood board.
Yep.
And you are supposed to have that set out there and you sweep that off every 6 hours. That's the proper procedure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be willing to bet that 99% of people just learned that listening right now.
Yeah.
And they may not know a single individual who actually has that equipment and does it that way.
Yep.
But at the same time, the data is what the data is. And sometimes what'll happen is somebody will stick a ruler in their front yard. They'll message the weather service and say, I got 4 inches of snow. In reality, that 4 inches of snow might actually be 5 inches of snow, but it's been compacted down to 4 inches of snow now because they took it at the end of the storm.
Yep.
I'll never forget one March event. I got really, really upset because we had a 2.5, 3 inch snow in the morning. It tied up traffic like crazy. The local spotter only measured once a day. And in March, it had all melted away. And so the spotter wrote 0 for snow. And I'm going, now wait a second. We can't let that happen because that's wrong. That's entirely wrong. And so
inaccurate records. Yes.
Right. And so at that point you sit there and you go, all right, so we kind of need to take into account what other spotters are saying. If you are a weather enthusiast and you have not joined what's called the CocoRoss network yet, Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network, it's a volunteer network that does this kind of stuff. It's fantastic. And you can write in the comments when you measured the snow. And we use those all the time for some of our data analysis now. So I remember, working in television, we get a report. Well, I only had 3 inches in my driveway. Well, fine. You might have 6 in your yard. I don't care what you got. I just clear it. And then they'll say, well, what's the official snowfall for the city? Well, why do you care? You're going to fight me anyway.
Exactly.
It's going to be somewhere between 3 and 6, according to you. Maybe
no,
8
no matter
if
what
it's
I
on the
say,
patio table.
Exactly. No matter what I say, you're going to come back with, well, I have 3 or well, I have 4. Like, well,
so,
okay, great.
Proper
That's what
procedure,
you have.
But proper procedure is also make sure we're away from drifts, make sure we're away from obstacles. And you know what happens a lot more frequently than people think? If you leave your house, and you drive away, and you're driving back in and open your garage, if there's no snow on your roof didn't magically just melt all that. It blew off.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you're measuring close to your rooftop, you might have some little extra powdered sugar down there now because your roof doesn't have any snow on it. Or if your roof did melt at all, you need new insulation yesterday. Yeah. So yeah, and I'm telling you, the snow record is tough to deal with. And even when you look back in history, I think you have to consider that there's going to be the human error involved because we talked about it a few episodes ago. There's no automation to it, at least not routinely. There's some stuff in the mountains, but not routinely in the Midwest. And so there's always going to be a human error element to that as to where it is and how it works.
And to your point, talking about measuring on an elevated surface versus your deck versus, your grass or whatever, like that human error can go into just how far down you stuck the ruler, right? Like if you're measuring on grass, there's probably like, those blades of grass that are kind of intertwined and the snow is maybe sitting like up on top. And so if you stick your ruler all the way down, maybe you're just measuring an air pocket under the blades of grass in your snowfall measurement.
Especially if it's a fluffy snow.
Exactly. Yeah. And, the other side of that, Kai talked about that snowboard and how a proper snow measurement, you clear that off and everything. Another side to that proper snowfall measurement that avoids those drifts and things that Kai talked about with blowing snow and everything, you're supposed to take several measurements and average them out. There's a snowfall a couple of weeks back that we had here in the Des Moines Metro, and I took my trusty little ruler out and stuck it around a few times. And my dad was actually here and he was helping kind of clear off the driveway. And so I found a couple spots where it was closer to 3, closer to 4, closer to 5. And I had to take several different measurements in order to actually get something that was reflective of what actually fell, because some places it was blowing. And so it blew off snow in that spot that only measured 2 inches that blew onto that spot that measured 5 inches. And so it was more so an average of, 3.5, 4 inches. I forget what the exact, numbers were, but that's just kind of reflective of it, right? Of how it all happens. And it takes a couple different measurements in order to get a good one. And you have to keep taking them. Otherwise, you're not going to get a good measurement.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. All right, let's keep on the snow theme. Our trivia question here today is coming right up, and we'll give you a chance to think about it, but we'll reveal it to you right now. It's just going to be a simple true or false on this holiday week. True or false, it can snow along the Gulf Coast. So, true, false, yes or no. We'll give you a chance to think about that. Hang tight. Are you in need of a great holiday family photo, or perhaps you have a son or a daughter getting married next year? You just can't find that perfect photographer yet. Well, look no further than iWAS Photographer. Great rates, timely turnaround, and awesome performance. iWAS Photographer will help you coordinate every step of your family's big day. And by the way, you're going to blink one day and your kid will be a senior in high school. I'm almost there myself. iWAS Photographer can also help with that too. Capturing the beauty of Iowa one photo at a time. Head to iWasPhotographer.com.
Today's trivia question.
Alrighty, thanks for staying with us and hopefully thinking about this true, false, yes or no question. It can snow along the Gulf Coast. True or false? Jan, what's your vote?
True. Absolutely. I'm going all in. True.
But there are beaches down there.
There are
and
beaches,
it's warm.
but I've heard
I don't want it to.
I know that it can snow in all 50 states. So if Hawaii can get snow, I'm going with the Gulf Coast can.
All right, you're right. It absolutely can snow along the Gulf Coast. And folks down there had a rude reminder of that last winter. There's some beautiful, and I say beautiful satellite imagery because we're weather nerds, but when you see snow caked into New Orleans,
places that you just don't see it normally.
Just a big record-breaking snow down there. But yes, it can snow along the Gulf Coast, and a small phenomenon we're kind of looking at. You know, you talk about lake effect snow. Can we have Gulf effect snow? Well, maybe. There was a south wind coming off the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, wherever we want to call it, into that cold air, and it may have very well strengthened a little bit of those snow bands to make them really powerful down there. Regardless, even if southern Louisiana got an inch of snow, it's a massive deal. But to get the 6 to 12 was a real record breaker. And I believe at the time they had more snow than Iowa had received all year. So,
I'll believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a wild, wild year last year, but it can absolutely happen. It can absolutely happen. Rare, but it can happen.
Yeah.
So, all right. We're in the holiday season. Jan, when you and I worked together, I would occasionally come into work and there'd be a plate of something. And Jan had made some homemade candy. And there was a type of candy that I think you called, I think, turtles. But I forget the exact, here's what they were. They were scoop-sized Fritos and caramel.
Oh, and those ones, yes.
I lost my freaking mind on those.
Classic Northeast Iowa specialty.
Oh, man.
I think some people maybe make them with like Special K, call them Special K bars, but like that like peanut buttery, syrupy delightfulness that is absolutely not good for you in any way, but put it over Fritos. Oh,
so all of a sudden,
so good.
I'd go into the office, there'd be a plate of food there, and my general rule was I would not eat till the show's over, period, because it would mess my throat up. And undoubtedly, I would eat one of those, and then I'd eat them again. Like I didn't make it through the show. So a quick touch here on homemade candy and weather as we're into the holiday season, Jan.
Yeah.
When you're making candy, what's one of the meteorological variables you look at?
I mean, humidity is probably one of the biggest ones, right? Yeah. When you're making candy, like, you know, anything with that caramely base, a lot of times you have a candy thermometer. So temperature is obviously an important component. You have to get it up to a certain temperature, and you're going through these different chemical reactions and stuff as it's changing. But if you try to make caramels, turtles, Frito bars, whatever it might be, Divinity, I know a lot of people make over the holidays. If you try to make those in the summer versus in the winter, a lot of people, we make it around Christmas. It's not just because it's Christmas candy. It's because it's drier in the winter. That's why it works better and why it has become associated with the Christmas holidays or, whatever holidays, right? Is because it's better weather to make candy in because there's less humidity in the air. And so if you tried to make those types of candies in the middle of the summer, sometimes I have done it because I didn't think about it, right? You'll get this like almost like precipitation, like water condensation on the caramel because of all the extra moisture in the air. So it doesn't work as well. So yeah, weather even comes into your Christmas candy.
Sure does. I was guilty of setting a tray of cookies out to cool very rapidly before we put them in the freezer. So you can use the outdoor temperature also to your advantage if you want to.
Absolutely. Well, we hope that you have a wonderful holiday season. Kai and I are going to take a couple weeks off so we can enjoy some time with our family here over the end of the year, but we'll be back in early to mid-January for you. Until then, remember, you can send in your questions at any time and we'll get back to them here as we get into next year. weatheredquestions@gmail.com. Join in the conversation. We would love to have you and share us with your family over the holidays as you drive around the country as well. Until then, and during all of that time, stay safe.